What's that? Oh yeah, all those YouTube gurus, they're liars. Let's talk about some of the lies that you maybe hear on YouTube with advice on how to grow on YouTube. Now, there's a lot of content out there talking about how to grow on YouTube. Now, there's a very important thing that you gotta make sure you hear me out on with this whole thing. So I don't want you to get the wrong impression. So at the end of the video, you're gonna really see where I'm going with all this. Okay, first thing that maybe you've heard is audience retention. It's so important. You gotta get that audience retention up, man. You gotta get everyone to stay to the end of your video. Okay, cool. Let's make a 5-second video. That's kind of a problem. If you get a 5-second video, you're not gonna do very good because at the end of the day, most people aren't even gonna wanna click to watch a 5-second video, but there's a really good chance to get 100% of people to stay to the end. Well, maybe not a really good chance, but maybe like 60% of people to stay at the end, because today's day and age of the internet, we all know how people quickly bail. But on a video that was really short, YouTube's probably not gonna recommend that to a lot of people, right? Because of the second thing all the gurus tell you. You gotta get that watch time up. So then if that's the case, then you need to make videos that are like 30 hours long, and then you're gonna get that watch time up, right? The problem with that is how many people are actually gonna wanna watch a 30-hour video, right? A lot of people aren't gonna click to watch that to begin with. On top of that, now, well, if you have a 30-hour long video, how many people are actually gonna make it to the end? Now you don't get that audience retention. Okay, so which one is it, right? And both making the really short video and the really long video could hurt the other thing that the gurus all say you have to have, and that's a good click-through rate. Now that one, I actually think that's a pretty safe bet. Getting your click-through rate on your videos up is good, unless you get a really high click-through rate and then people go to that video and all of a sudden it's not about what the thumbnail and the title said it was about and they leave right away. Now you don't get audience retention or watch time. That's a problem, right? Here's another one, using all the tags. You gotta make sure you put a tag in, for every single character that's possible. Even if it's like you've used all the tags, you've got like, one character left that you can use, and just put an A in there, just to make sure you get enough tags in there. And then also the keywords that you put in those tags and the tags in general, like that's the most important thing about your video. But problem with that, YouTube themselves, employees from YouTube has said that tags don't really matter after the first hour of uploading. Just in that first hour kind of gives them a little bit of context if the video is about what you think it's about, and then from there YouTube can kind of figure it out. So maybe tags don't matter so much. I'll have a full video breaking that down at the end of this video, so make sure you watch that. You'll like that one a lot. Here's the other one. You've got to upload videos multiple times a week, or some people will say just once a week. Make sure it's a very good video once a week, and that's it. So which one is it? And you'll even get some people that say you should upload multiple times a day. Some people will say you should upload once a month. Which one is it? Here's another one. You've got to make sure you get your uploads done on the exact same day, at the exact same time. And if you're gonna do multiple times a week, it's gotta be the same days, same times. Never, ever break out of that. Here's another one. In your thumbnails, you've always gotta have the same font, the same colors. You gotta have your logo in the bottom corner, and you should make a big expression, bright colors behind you, and those pieces all have to be in place. And if you're gonna have text, you either better be pointing to the text, or looking at the text, or looking and pointing at the text, and that text has to be huge so people can read it on a mobile device. Next piece of advice is you have gotta keep uploading. If you take a break from YouTube, your channel will absolutely die. You have no chance of getting any traction again whatsoever. So if you're gonna stop uploading for a week plus, then just quit, give up on YouTube. Okay, I'm being a little extreme here. Hopefully you made it to this part in the video so you can see where I'm going with this. All these things are good little tips, tactics, strategies, right? But some of them kind of seem like they're conflicting, right? Some of them seem like, if you don't do this, your channel's gonna die. And look, all those things I think are very, very extreme ways of looking at things. A lot of times we can go into these tips and tactics videos, mine included, and maybe you watch something, you're like, that's what I need. And then you'll just go hardcore on that one thing, right? Trying to put as much emphasis on it as you can. So whether it's getting that watch time up, or the thumbnails, or getting the retention up, or getting your click-through rate up. So here's the deal. There's gotta be a certain level of balance between those, and there has to be a really good understanding of what you wanna be doing with your channel, what your channel is about, and who the desired audience is. Once you've got that figured out, now you can say, okay, this is the content I make for this type of person. So you can, from that, get a much better sense of, okay, this is the right length of video to make so I can get that good balance of watch time minutes and view duration, or average view duration per video. So you get that retention up and try to get hopefully as close to 100% of the people watching to the end of your video as possible. You also get a better understanding of what types of titles and thumbnails you should be making to get more people clicking to watch your video, and then also getting them to continue to watch the video because you don't feel like you've clickbaited them and they don't feel like you've clickbaited them. And now it's going to be a good experience from the beginning to the click to the watch, etc. Same thing goes with your upload frequency, right? I've heard of some channels where they do animations and they have a really hard time because it takes so long just to make one video of going more than once a month. Well, that has to be taken into consideration. What also has to be taken into consideration is your audience. Maybe your audience doesn't want to see more than one video a week, one video a month. Maybe they want to see a video every single day if you're doing more news type content, right? So it really depends on what your content is about and what your audience expects to see from you. As far as the thumbnail advice goes, well, with that, I would say a lot of those things I gave you earlier actually typically do pretty well, but you can't be afraid to break out of that from time to time to keep things fresh for yourself, for your audience, to break things up and give them something unexpected, something that grabs their attention. And it just kind of keeps you confined if you feel like you always have to use the same font. You've always got to have the big expression. You've always got to point at the text, right? Or have text or not have text. All those things can kind of make your channel a little bit restricted in what you can do. Same thing with what your content is like, right? You want to have a certain level of consistency. I'm not disagreeing with that whatsoever, but you don't also want to get yourself stuck into a rut to the point where your content becomes stale, boring, and has no life to it whatsoever. And as far as your channel dying, if you stop uploading for more than a week, look, you can take a break on YouTube. Now, I'd personally say, one video a week for a year is a good way to like get that initial growth and kind of get some videos that hit big, and from there you can latch onto those topics that are doing well and get a better feel for what your audience is about, what your content, that you want to make is that would fit with what your audience is liking, so you can get, what you want and what they want and get that figured out in videos that are going to perform well, and then make more of it. That's why the one video a week for a year is very, very important, I think, and doing 2 videos a week would be even better, because that gives you more opportunities to figure out what content your audience wants to see. But that being said, you can, break away from that frequency. You can take a little break from time to time if you need to keep yourself from getting exhausted and sick of doing YouTube, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe life just hands you something that you didn't expect and things get really busy. I know how that is. It happens to me too. So, taking a week, 2 weeks, maybe even up to a month off is not a big deal. Now, I would say if you start taking much longer than that, then you might have a hard time getting your audience interested in your content again, because they're kind of be like, dude, you just bailed on us. But that being said, if you are upfront with them and honest and tell them, hey, look, I'm gonna be taking a little break, or I took this break because this crazy thing happened in my life, or I'm just not feeling inspired and I wanted to give you guys some good content, so I took a little break. Then I think, most of your audience will come back. But again, you just can't take like an entire year off. I'm gonna tell you right now, well, I shouldn't say you can't, because there are always gonna be exceptions to a rule, but taking a year off is pretty extreme, right? If you take an entire year off, yeah, a lot of those people, maybe if your content is how-to type content, teaching people how to do something, they might not even be interested in that anymore. And then at that point, by the time you start uploading again, your entire subscriber base, or a good chunk of it, won't even really care about what you're uploading anymore. And then your click-through rate goes down and your audience retention and all that stuff. And as far as the tags go, well, the tags actually do matter, because that first hour after your video is uploaded on YouTube, the tags give YouTube the idea of what the video is about, right? So they know what audience to put it in front of. Well, in the first hour after upload, how well that video performs as far as how many views it gets compared to normal on your channel will really tell YouTube a lot about that video and if they're finding the right audience and all that. So even though they only matter for the first hour, if you can get a lot of views in that first hour, that will get you view velocity, which view velocity tells YouTube if it's a good video or not. At least for a little while, they'll test it some more in front of different audiences, but once they get a good idea if it's a good video or not, then that's going to determine how much more they're going to push it out in the home feed, search, suggested, all the different feeds that people can see your videos on YouTube. And if you get a really good high view velocity, a lot of views in that first hour and the first 24 hours, YouTube's going to push it out to a lot of people, and then you stand the chance to get a lot of views on that video. So with all that being said, the things that I've given you so far are going to be really important, but I got 2 really big pieces of advice that I think are going to pretty much be good no matter what you're talking about, click-through rate, any of that stuff. It's going to kind of apply to everything. As long as you've got an understanding about what videos you want to make and that your audience will like, then you want to keep in mind a couple things. Number 1, watch time per impression, and I would say this is watch time on your video and also to some degree session watch time. So I'm going to break this down for you quick. Basically, if someone sees your thumbnail in search, suggested, the home feed, pretty much anywhere on YouTube, and that counts as an impression right there. So when I say watch time per impression or session time per impression, that is an impression. So when someone sees your thumbnail or your video, thumbnail and title and has the chance to click it, that is an impression. So let's say you get a really good click-through rate, you got 10% click-through rate, and that video got 100 impressions. That means that's 10 people that clicked out of 100 people that had an impression, that saw the thumbnail, okay? Now, how much on average people watch will determine your watch time per impression. So let's say on average people watch 10 minutes, just to keep things nice and easy. That means if you had 100 impressions, 10 of those people clicked, and on average, those people watched 10 minutes. That means you're sitting at 1 minute of watch time per impression, because 10 divided by 10 out of those 100. So if you can get more watch time per impression, the better. So a couple things you can do to affect that is the advice a lot of the gurus give you. Can you get people watching further to the end to get that average view duration up? Could you make a longer video to get people watching more total time? Could you get your click-through rate by making a better title and thumbnail so more people click to watch your video, and automatically that's going to be a lot more watch time, which is why click-through rate is pretty huge, as long as you deliver on what you promise in the thumbnail and the title. And then, as I mentioned, session time per impression is a big factor. And basically what that means is if someone has the impression and then they click to watch your video and they end up watching like another 30 minutes worth of YouTube, whether it's your videos or not, that's a really good indicator to YouTube. So if you can get them watching your video all the way to the end and then get them onto another video, good stuff. Whether it's your video or someone else's, ideally it's better if it's yours though. The second piece of advice I can give you is, look, take care of your audience, your subscribers, which, nowadays on YouTube, just because someone subscribed to your channel doesn't mean they're gonna see your videos in the feed. And maybe they aren't subscribed to your channel and they watched a couple of your videos all the way to the end. YouTube's gonna follow them around anyway. So those people are kind of still your audience, whether they subscribed or not, right? The biggest thing I can give you on that side of things and keeping that audience happy is, once you know what kind of content you wanna make and you know what your audience wants to see, keeping things fresh with ideas and topics that they're gonna wanna watch. So I break down a really great way to help you come up with better ideas, titles, thumbnails, and the content itself in the video that I'll pin to the top comment. Make sure you watch that, it'll help you a ton. If you found this advice helpful, be sure you subscribe and click the bell icon to catch the newest videos. Drop me a comment, let me know, hit that like button, and I will see you in that video in the top comment next.